So hello everybody and welcome to this fireside chat on FinOps, the importance of FinOps for cloud cost optimization. My name is Linda Anderson. I'm the SAM marketing manager and I am joined today by Jason Pepper, who is the head of the SAM practice at version 1. Okay, so Jason, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, hi everybody. So I've been working in software asset management since about 2006, mainly focusing on the more generic aspects of software asset management, the models and the processes associated with it, rather than specific vendor knowledge. Prior to that, I used to work for Oracle for 12 years, so that's kind of put me in good stead for understanding some of the more complex licensing models.
Thank you. So today we are going to talk about FinOps. So Jason, what does that term actually mean and how might others understand that term?
Okay, so FinOps essentially is an extension of the recent trend to bring together different skill sets across people's use of information technology. So a more recent term that people may know about is DevOps, so that's development and operations. And so FinOps in the same thing brings together finance and operations. And so FinOps at its heart really is an operating model for managing cloud expenditure. FinOps enables a shift from the old kind of expense control models to a combination of best practice and culture that brings all concerned parties together. So the output really should increase a customer's ability to understand cloud costs and also to make decisions based upon that understanding. So it's a bringing together of finance, technology, and business, which helps you manage the unit economics of the cloud and hopefully to produce some kind of competitive advantage either through reduced cost or quicker time to market or something like that.
So from a practical perspective, from a financial technical perspective, what does it mean in practice? If a business was doing this, what would they be doing?
Well, first thing of all, it's not a short-term thing, right? It's kind of like a lifestyle change. You have to do it continuously and repeatedly. So you don't do it once and then move on. It's cross-functional, so it should bring together people from different parts of the business. So it's not just an IT thing or a business or a finance thing. You need to bring together people from all parts of the business. So you need people that kind of have a vested interest in the performance of and the kind of management of cloud costs. So that could be people from the Cloud Center of Excellence. It could be people from finance. It could be people from procurement. But lots of different people across the business will need to be involved. So it's cross-functional. It doesn't happen in a vacuum. It involves everybody all of the time. It's akin to surfing rather than building a sandcastle, right? There's lots of things that you need to kind of keep your hands on top of rather than kind of a single build and depart. FinOps is designed from the ground up really to engender conversations. You want people to understand, so you need the finance people to understand the decisions that a technical team have made from an architecture perspective, and it brings together a common language. So for practicalities, ultimately, it's a way of creating a common lexicon amongst people with different skill sets. So accountants can talk to technical people can talk to business people, and business people can talk to accountants. And it enables the business to get a single view of what they're spending in the cloud, and more importantly, why they're spending it in the cloud.
So I would imagine that there are some businesses where this would really create a lot of value, and there are some where actually maybe it's not so necessary. Is there a kind of sweet spot business that really should be thinking about this as a discipline?
My personal opinion is that any business with cloud expenditure is likely to benefit from following the FinOps principles. Obviously, like a lot of things in kind of cost management, the greater the spend, the greater there is a potential for drastic savings. But even moderate spend will benefit from optimization techniques. So I'd have to say the answer to your question is there's probably no sweet spot. There probably is going to be a bell curve where, the bulk of people are going to sit. But if you're spending money on kind of public cloud services, or even on things like software as a service, you will probably benefit from actually looking at the detail and understanding exactly where you're spending those pounds or those dollars or those euros, and whether you're getting good value for money. To me, it's good financial management.
So you've mentioned a couple of departments there, or functions within a business that need to be involved. Let's just call them out again, if you don't mind. So who needs to be involved in this kind of practice across the business?
Well, anyone with a vested interest in understanding why things cost what they cost, right? So it could be the departmental budget owner. It could be the project owner within a particular code stream. It could be the development manager who's being asked to either deliver within a budget or manage to a budget. Obviously, anybody within procurement or finance who has a responsibility for controlling those costs, and whoever is the senior or the executive person responsible for the delivery of the service, the delivery of the product, the control of the budget. Anybody with kind of a vested financial or operational interest in the performance of those cloud services.
And they're coming together to build a practice as such, to effectively look at areas where they're spending too much, or you're wasting, or you're not getting good enough value.
Correct. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. There's a centralized team of some kind, and where that centralized team sits obviously will depend upon the customer's particular organizational setup, but a lot of customers are kind of centering them around, if you've got a cloud center of excellence, a CCOE,
Right.
or potentially office of the CIO, or whoever is responsible for kind of governance, that kind of thing, policy and procedure. It makes sense that the team kind of hangs off that, because it has to be centralized, really. There's no point having kind of distributed kind of FinOps practices, unless, of course, those FinOps practices rolled up into a centralized one. But the more centralized it is, the better, so that they've got a greater visibility of all cost, and therefore any optimizations that they can implement would then be able to be distributed across the entire organization.
So again, it's probably worth calling out the kind of problems that might occur if you don't do this within a business as an ongoing methodology. What kind of problems can occur?
So the one that most people are aware of, and the one that most people experience, and this usually is what triggers people to start to look at FinOps. They might not know it's called FinOps, but they might have started researching it anyway. And that's something that we call bill shock. And that's where you get to the end of the month and the bill comes in, and whoever's paying the bill goes, have you seen the size of this bill? We have to do something about it. And that's usually the first time at which somebody goes, there must be a better way of doing this. And the problem with bill shock obviously is that because it's cloud spend, those configuration items have already been utilized, they've already been set up, they've already been connected. You can't go back. You can't kind of say, oh, can I have a refund on those devices or those network connections or that storage? It just doesn't work like that. So people tend to that's their first jump off point, is the bill shock. And visibility, right? So you end up, because the nature of the way that people can engage with cloud services, it's just as if you've got a company credit card, you can set up an account with a public cloud provider, and the visibility of that spend is not necessarily visible up above a departmental level, because if it's not being coded correctly. So you get siloed islands of spending, you'll get bill shock, and then you can start to get to the more prosaic stuff. You get lack of accountability for those people that are defining. So say, for example, as a developer or a systems implementer, you might choose to use something that's not a device that's very large or suits your particular technical requirement, but you're not thinking about how much that's going to cost the business and whether or not they're getting a return on investment for that. And obviously the traditional control models that have historically been in place, people like procurement and finance, who, historically, if a development team wanted to buy a new server to do something, they would have to put in a business case, and it would finally get approved, allocated the right budget, and so on. So finance and procurement kind of were the gateway to that kind of spend, but that model's been flipped on its head now, because you tend to find that the administrators of the cloud services are not the business, they're actually the technical people, and they can just choose to upgrade to a larger server if they want to, and then the bill problem, we then get back to the bill shock situation. So yeah, it's all to do with lack of control, really, is the main problem.
So having gone through all those problems, it sounds like the benefits are significant if a business has this practice in place.
Absolutely, yes, totally. I mean, there are probably lots of tertiary benefits, but I'd say that the primary benefits are being able to understand what your fully loaded costs are, so that you're ensuring that what you're spending is actually bringing value for money back to the business. The process of implementing the kind of cost management and the reporting will bring much better, I wouldn't say real time, but near real time decision making. So you can see the effect of making a decision in terms of whether it reduces cost or whether it improves performance. And it's literally, kind of less than a 24-hour period between making a change and seeing the value. You can be able to benchmark your performance. So if you're tracking that data, you can work out, okay, we made this change last month that has produced the following, either the change reduction in cost or an increase in output or whatever it was you were trying to achieve. So you end up with optimized usage, you obviously end up with optimized expenditure, and best of all, what you end up with is no surprises for the business, both from a cost perspective and from a performance perspective. So the benefits are great, really.
Yeah, sound like it. So ultimately, if a business is listening to this fireside chat and they are obviously keen to take advantage of all those benefits, what are the first three things then that they should think about doing in order to set up a FinOps practice or whatever they want to call it? What would they need to do?
First thing to do is to create a team. The team ideally would be built around one or two individuals who are kind of got an interest in this, whether because that's their job or they're kind of interested in the optimization side of things. But ideally, you've got people who want to drive this, and they bring those people on that journey. So, as I mentioned earlier on, ideally you need stakeholders from across the business, and those stakeholders have to have a vested interest in extracting the best value out of a cloud investment. So you'll be looking at people from IT, so from ops or from development or from system administration, procurement, finance, operations, cloud center of excellence, or office of CIO, something like that. And that that centralized team has to have both the power and the remit to kind of look to optimize the entire cloud spend, not just, I mean, you could suck it and see with a particular within a department or a division or whatever, but it would be best off operating across the business. So yeah, create that team, and then once you created that team, then you need to just do an initial analysis, a basic gap analysis of where the money's being spent. So you can have a little bit of an amnesty if you want. You could get people to kind of communicate in and say, oh yeah, we're using AWS here, or we're using Google Cloud here, or we're using IBM or Oracle or Azure or whatever they're using, and look to collate those costs together and try and work out, okay, what does the landscape look like for our spend? And once you've done that, then you can start to cherry pick some of the low hanging fruit to have a go at. Right. And the key thing here, right, is to not try to boil the ocean. It's to pick something that you think is a reasonable target, and then aim to either reduce that spend or increase that productivity or whatever it is that you're trying to do, but then report on it. So once you've done something, preferably if it's successful, then report on that process, because that kind of then becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So people start to buy into the fact that, oh, actually, this process can return value to the business. It's not just an exercise that is academic. It's actually going to produce real value for the business. So it follows a kind of a crawl, walk, run kind of process. So the idea being, start small, advertise your successes, and then kind of rinse and repeat like that.
Right.
And that whole process will then kind of grow arms and legs and hopefully bring the business along with it.
Thank you. Thank you, Jason. That was a really interesting chat we've had today on FinOps. So thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
So that brings us to the end of this fireside chat. If you have any questions or would like further support on FinOps, then please contact us to take advantage of a complimentary consultation with our experts. Alternatively, go to our website for more information. Thank you for listening.